During this lesson you will be required to fill out a worksheet. I recommend you read through the worksheet before viewing the lesson. In order to give you time to do this, you can use the pause button at the bottom of the screen. Learning outcomes. By the end of this lesson you should be able to state what a datum level is, list 3 methods of transferring levels on site, including a sketch for each one, and state where a gauge should be taken from when building brick or block work. Datum level. The first step is to determine a basic level from which all measurements for the building can be taken. This basic level is called the datum level or the datum peg. The top of the peg usually coincides with the finished floor level of the building. So therefore datum height is usually the floor level of the building on the site. This datum may be related to the nearest ordnance benchmark, which in turn is related back to the official ordnance datum from which all levels are given. Here we can see a couple of examples in the photographs opposite of an ordnance benchmark. So these ordnance benchmarks are related back to the ordnance datum. And in Ireland, this is the mean sea level at Mallinhead in Donegal. The reasons for setting the datum against the ordnance mark is in times of flooding the floor level should remain above the flood water, and it helps with the falls for drainage also. If the building is to be constructed in a built-up area, the datum can be on top of an adjacent permanent object. For example, a manhole cover or a curbstone. Traditionally, ordnance benchmarks were cut into brickwork or masonry at the floor level of public buildings such as courthouses or town halls, and here's an example opposite. Transferring levels on site. There are several traditional methods that could be used when transferring levels on site. 3 most commonly used ones are a levelling board with a spirit level, or a straight edge with a spirit level on top of it. Boning rods, which are used for excavating trenches, as well as transferring levels over long distances. And water levels, which are the most accurate method of transferring a level. Laser levels are also used on occasion. So these traditional methods can also be used in conjunction with today's more modern surveying equipment such as Dunphy level, laser level or theodolite, which is used for measuring angles also. There is a wide variety of these instruments and each one is designed for a special purpose, but they can be expensive. Method 1. Transferring levels using a levelling board and a spirit level, or a straight edge and a spirit level. A levelling board is a long straight edge of timber with parallel sides. The spirit level should be placed in the centre top edge of the levelling board. This is to allow for any inaccuracies in the straight edge. Place one end of the board on the datum and the other end on a peg that can be adjusted to suit the bubble of the spirit level. The board should be reversed from peg to peg to ensure accuracy of the spirit level. So the reason we reverse the board and the spirit level is that if there's any inaccuracies in the board or the spirit level, then they'll cancel each other out each time we reverse it. The second method is the boning rods method. Boning rods are used in sets of 3. Each rod is made up of 2 pieces of timber, one vertical and one horizontal, in the shape of a T. The vertical piece of timber for each boning rod must be of equal length. How to use bounding rods. Place a peg the length of a spirit level away from the datum and adjust until level. So we have 2 level pegs. Place 2 bounding rods, one on top of each of the pegs. Using a third peg any distance away from the first 2, stand the third bounding rod on top of it. Sight through the top of the first 2 bounding rods until the top of the third coincides. This ensures that the 3 pegs are perfectly level with each other. It is important that each bounding rod is kept straight to ensure accuracy. Any amount of pegs can be sighted in using this method, and only operatives or craftsmen with a good trained eye should consider using the bounding rods method. Note, the bounding rods method can be used also for setting out gradients and faults, especially when you're doing drainage work. The third method is the water level method, and this is the most accurate. The modern water level comprises of a length of rubber hose with a glass tube attached to each end, as seen in the photograph opposite. The hose is carefully filled with water from one end only to ensure no air bubbles are trapped. When the 2 glass tubes are held at the same level, the height of the water will be the same in each one. Note, the water must be removed from the level during freezing conditions. A solution of antifreeze and water can be used if necessary. When carrying or storing the level, both glass tubes should be corked and protected. The hose should also be carefully gathered when storing. This type of level is very useful when levelling points which are not visible from one to another. So, for example, transferring levels around corners or from one room to another room within a house. Working levels and gauges on site. All gauges should be taken from a known level surface, for example a floor, but floors are often not level. The damp-proof course is always level, so levels should be taken off the DPC. The internal walls of a building should be levelled from the external walls, which are known to be levelled all the way around the house or building. When building warehouses or industrial units that comprise of fair-faced blocks or bricks, halfway up and then cladding, levels are given at DPC and finished heights can be given off the DPC or marked on columns that are spaced around the building. If working on larger buildings, always get a level mark and finished height before you start building. Always check floors for level before you start building. If building in between columns, watch out for finished height under ceilings or beams. Always mark out the gauge before you start building. Never trust anyone else's work. If cladding, for example brick or block or stone, is being built on the outside of this work, take this into consideration when gauging. So, for example, what height should your wall ties be going in at to accommodate the cladding on the outside of the building? Conclusion. A datum level is a basic level from which all measurements for the building can be taken. 3 methods of transferring levels on site are a levelling board with a spirit level or a straight edge with a spirit level, bounding rods and water level. All gauges should be taken from a known level surface, therefore the DPC level.